Well, you know, we always back up before we can go forward with young pitching because our system's a difficult system to pick up. It's not an easy pitching system, um, and so in the fall, guys can look really bad because they haven't internalized the system yet. They're thinking and pitching, and that's a bad recipe. Um, but what we see when they get back from the Christmas break is when you start to talk to them again, you know, about, you know, the five different curveballs they got to throw instead of just in high school, they just put two down. You know, I mean, two fingers, and it means curveball. Here we've got backdoor, back leg, get me over, easy, extra, and miss. And so they have to be communicated to from the catcher on which one of the five curveballs that they're throwing. So this is not an easy system to pick up. But I think when they got back from the spring, we were very pleased because as they started to come back out in their bullpens, they were starting to, the terminology, they were starting to talk it, they were starting to understand it, they weren't paralyzed as much where they were thinking and pitching at the same time. So I think what they're doing now is they've got the system better under their belt, and then they're starting to pitch with a little of intent, and that's the difference too, is to be able to pitch with intent, and not pitch all around the plate and act like you pitching. That's not pitching, and that's what they're doing a better job of. They're starting to threaten the hitter before he threatens them. Most freshmen, they wait to be threatened, but now they're trying to threaten the hitter before he threatens them. Yes, yes, definitely. We have, and we just were developing other guys. We were trying to get younger guys in for the first time, so a lot of matchups. So Connor's similar to Gunnar Leger. He's got a good two-seam fastball, a good changeup. He's good at plus and minus off his fastball. So I hope he'll get out there and get us off to a good start. And we just want to take a look at him and get him in there because we hadn't been able to get him in yet. Huh? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yes. He's going to start tomorrow. Yes. Yeah. It is. Nick, what's good about Nick is Nick has our pitching system down. Coach can tell you this too. You know, you can teach all the pitching you want, but when you have a catcher that's got the pitching system down, it's such a big relief and can help our pitchers. And Thurm's got a great idea. He had a good idea last year. He was ahead of schedule. The pitching system didn't conflict with him or spook him. He actually picked it up. He's got it. And I mean, I'll give you an example. In that 17-inning game, you know, we might have called, you know, 2 pitches. I mean, that was Nick. So we try to teach our pitching system. You know, Hal Reynolds said that when we made it to the College World Series, he couldn't believe that the catchers were allowed to call their game. But we spend over 25 or 30 hours in the classroom in the fall with our pitchers and catchers. So we want the catchers to be able to handle their game. When Jonathan LaCroix got to the big leagues, his manager said he couldn't believe how far advanced he was in pitch calling. If you make them robots, I've always been against that. You make them robots, they don't know why they're calling what they're calling, and the pitcher doesn't know why he's throwing what he's throwing. I don't want to teach pitching that away. But it's not a dictatorship. The pitcher has the right to shake me off. The pitcher has the right to shake the catcher off. It's not a dictatorship. We call it 3 against 1. It's the pitcher, catcher, and me trying to get that hitter out. And we're very clear. If I call a pitch and it leaves the yard, don't palm me. If you call a pitch and it leaves the yard, I'm not going to palm you. So we have a 3-way system that allows everybody to do. Because my theory in pitching, I would rather the pitcher to throw the wrong pitch wholeheartedly than throw the right pitch half-heartedly. And so a lot goes into this. We don't just walk out there and, you know, let somebody call the game. It's an earned right. You have to earn this right as a pitcher, and as a catcher. Now, they look in every pitch to make sure we controlling the slide steps and the steals and the picks and all that stuff. I mean, again, it's a three-way system, but we like trying when Milhorn threw the other day, the game against Stony Brook. I might have called one pitch in the whole game. So, but that's a senior, and that's a catcher that's got the pitching system down. So, it's Thurman's done a great job. Thurman's got the system down. I trust Thurman completely. Against Alabama, when he called Austin that night in the 2-0 shutout, and I don't think I called a pitch. So that might be better off for us. But so it's a unique system, because I like it that way, because if Thurm gets a little gun shy, I can take over. If maybe I called a couple things that didn't work, or maybe I'm not in rhythm, he can take it. And then we want the pitcher to be old enough to look in and be able to shake off too, and not believe he's got a dictatorship. For this reason, when Austin was a freshman, he was pitching against South Alabama. Austin's got a real good sinker, and so as the innings wore on, we called fastball in, because all that night they couldn't get to his sinker. Well, when he takes the sign, the kid hitting backs off the plate. Well, he's going to jump that sinker is what he's going to do. Well, they should have shook right there, and they didn't, and he hit it out of the ballpark. And that's the part that I want the pitchers to know, that they have the right to shake. They don't have to be in a fear of making the wrong call, because a lot of times the catcher and the pitcher is going to have better lanes than me. I'm in a dugout. I can see left to right, but it's a lot tougher seeing where his feet is. Is he backing off the plate? Is he trying to jump a certain pitch? Is he diving? Would it be better to bust him back up and in? So it's a three-way system. It's always been that way. Our catchers here have to earn the right to call the game. The pitchers have to do the same thing. Now, I've got 29 years of experience. Sometimes a freshman pitcher has none. So there are certain kids you call more for and certain kids you call less for until they kind of grow up. Coach Bertman tells the story all the time. He went down to Mississippi to see a kid pitch, and true story. But the kid pitches the first game of a doubleheader, and so Skip goes down there to tell him that he threw it left-handed. So after the game was over, Skip went down there to tell him he was leaving, good job. And so the kid said, "Why don't you stay? I'm going to throw the second game to him and throw the back end of the doubleheader. I'm going to throw it right-handed." He said, "I'm amphibious." So when Bertman's asked all the time, you know, why you call pitches, he said, "Why do you think I'm going to call pitches? I got a pitcher out there that thinks he's an amphibian." The kid was nervous, you know, he meant to say ambidextrous, but he said he was amphibious. So he's got this story that, you know what, maybe I should be calling pitches, you know, if a kid's out there thinking he's amphibious. But so sometimes it goes by the age of the pitcher and the catcher, how good the catcher has the pitching system down. Strentz did a great job. I'm telling you, a lot of us getting better last year was deep into February and March as Mike really grasped it onto the pitching system and took it. We got really good as Mike got good, and Mazziotti had it real good. Justin Morgan had it real good. I'm lucky because in this pitching system, your catcher has to be good. It's got to be, or the pitching system's not that good. Yes. Little of both. Mike's been a good mentor, but it's more of a getting out there and repping it out with your pitchers and learning your pitchers, because Thurman's lost a lot of pitchers. I mean, Austin can make you look good in the game. I mean, Barrett can make you look good in the game. But right now, Thurman's calling for a lot of inexperienced pitchers, and I'm gonna tell you what, that's where you got to give him credit. I mean, I called a pick on Gunner Sunday, and maybe one other pitch, and Thurman had him. So you got to give a lot of credit to Thurman. He's not handling, not to be disrespectful. I mean, it's not Austin and Barrett. He's not handling, you know, juniors and seniors. He's handling young freshmen. But Thurman's got a good grasp of our pitching system. He is, and he comes from a good system. You see, he comes from LSU. LSU's got a good pitching system. You know, I've learned a lot of my pitching from Coach Bertman. And LSU's got a good pitching system. Coach Dunn over there is a great pitching coach. And so Powell spent a year under their pitching system before he transferred out and went to LSU Junior College. So he's got a good grasp of the pitching system also. I don't know. You know, JT and Bab could help you with that because they're with him every day as hitters. They don't let me talk to the hitters much. I'll ruin them. But I think it's a maturation process too, sitting in the wings. You know, the great thing about Thurm is last year he sat up at the front of the dugout where we called a lot of the pitches. The spray charts were up there. The pitch count charts were up there. He spent a lot of time up at the front of the dugout watching charts, looking at charts. And I think that makes a difference, man. I mean, in baseball, you don't get to watch a lot of film, but when you pay attention to charts, and he could have sat at the end of the dugout and ate sunflower seeds because he wasn't going to catch because Mike was catching. But the one thing Thurm did, and I call that working while you wait. I really believe where people go wrong, whether in their regular life or in baseball, is they stop working while they wait. And then their chance comes, and they're the same person they were 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, when they could have been so much better if they'd have worked while they wait. And the one thing that Thurm did a great job of is he worked while he waited, so that once his time came, he was more than prepared. Where what most people do is they pout, stop working, think they're getting screwed, go to the end of the dugout, and then when their chance finally comes, they're not ready. And the one thing that he did, I think, a great job of is he worked while he waited, and I think baseball's paying him back. I think we're only probably maybe 1 to 2 games off of where I expected. I mean, I knew going into this, I thought we'd have to play ourselves into a better baseball team because we lost so much. You know, when you lose arrogance like we did, you look at like Middle Tennessee when they lost Bryce Brents. I don't know if they've rebounded yet. I mean, you look at Fresno State when they had those arrogant kids that won the national championship. Where have they been since? I mean, Stony Brook's kids, when they had all that arrogance when they went into LSU. Let me tell you something. You can replace a pitcher, a hitter, an outfielder, but boy, when you got to replace arrogance, you talk about hard to replace. And did we lose some arrogance? I mean, that was one of the most arrogant teams outside of the College World Series team I ever coached. And so you're losing swagger, you're losing arrogance. I mean, 6 of the 9 hitters in the lineup are no longer here, and we lost 500 innings. Some teams can't recover from that, you know, and 2 good coaches. I mean, we lose one of the better hitting coaches we've ever had here. We lose a volunteer coach with him. I mean, look at what they lost, and they come back from this weekend and win 2 out of 3 from Alabama. I mean, that's a good sign. And we're not going to let, you know, our record muddy us, because right now I think it's going to be a little ugly. And I think it has to be that way for us to grow. I think we're going to get cut. We're going to get punched along the way. One good thing is I'm glad that the pitching is starting to settle down, because, you know, it's so hard to put your hitters. You look at Sunday, what Gunnar does. Well, he takes all the duress off your hitters. Well, what do? We score big. Why? Because the pitcher protected him. You know how many walks he had? None. So he doesn't put nobody under duress. We played the game with 1 error through 9 on the road against Alabama. That's what pitching can do. Pitching's like cash, man. You either got it or you don't. You can only fake it for how long, whether you do have it, because eventually you're going to have to put up or shut up. And that mound's 10 inches higher out there than everybody else, and that's because when a dude gets on the mound, he can make his team better and Hunter and Gunner made us better that night. So now what we need, and Millie was close, Millie was close. He was dominating them. He worked through the fifth. He got 2 outs, bases juiced. He needed to come one more step forward and finish that inning and get off the field with 1 run given up after the sac fly to get to 2 outs. And that's the one little piece he's got to come on. Evan, 3 walks. We got to do what Gunner did and cut those walks down, and I think Evan will be fine. So I think we're where we need to be, a little bit more pitching, and we're starting to build some depth now. We're not looking at a bunch of arms going, well, I don't know who we can bring in here. I mean, now we're fighting to pitch people. I mean, we got guys that need to keep going back out, but yet we're trying to bring other guys back out that I think can be good. I think Connor can be good. I think Stokey's going to be good before this is over. I think Eric Carter needs to come back out. And then we got a guy down there, 6'6", 6'7", 230, throwing very hard that hasn't come out very much. So we're building some depth, and I think that's going to be good for us. And I think the more we take the duress off our hitters, I think the better they'll get too. And so I like where we are. And I think it's going to be a good test because we're pulling somebody that is playing good and that has played good. Bobby's in his last year. He's retiring this year and turning the helm over to his assistant coach. So I'm sure that team wants to send him out, as a winner. So I got every reason to believe that they're going to come in and play well. So this will be a good test for us to see where we're at. But we're not going to let one weekend, just like Coach said, we wasn't going to let one weekend in Alabama or one weekend, the starting weekend of conference, dictate where we go. We got to stay weathered, and sometimes it's not going to be pretty because I think we'll go back and forth a little bit because of our age until we can kind of fight for consistency. But we're getting closer to doing that. We were able to go down to Alabama this weekend, and actually for 17 innings, we didn't get some jobs done at the plate, but we played a long game with running arms out there with a lot of pressure on them. I mean, every arm that came in gave up 1 run, it could cost him the game. So I like that. That kind of weathered a lot of our pitchers to pitch under traffic. So I like where we're at this point in time, and I think the one thing I'd like to see us do is continue to lock down and play a little bit better defense. Yes. Sure. Yeah, there's no doubt. The first 4 to 5 in our lineup were the guys, if you notice, they're the guys that played the most last year, and they're the guys that are doing the best. What we've got to do is we've got to get that, 6, 7, 8, 9, the bottom of the order to come on, and meet the top of the order. And they're doing a better job, but once they come on, I think we're going to be better 1 through 9 because a lot of our experience, you hit BT, you hit Shug, you hit Greg Davis, you hit some of the guys that played a lot, and then as you get to the bottom, you're running into the Trosclairs and the Harringtons and the Mills and Kyle Claymont, the guys that maybe hasn't played a ton. And I think those guys will keep getting better the more they just keep playing because they're the ones who had less of the experience. And I think if we can keep growing from the bottom up in our lineup, I think we can do some things because our arms right now are kind of they're getting out of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, where one day they hide, next day they're Jekyll. You don't know what you got coming out. And now what they're doing a good job of is they're starting to come out the same guy. Now they're not going to always throw a shutout inning. They're not going to always get a win. But the one thing you want out of pitching is you want to know every Friday night we went out there, we thought we knew what we had with Austin. Now whether he was going to win or not, who knows? But the hitters want to know that the guy running in and the guy coming in to start the game, they look at the lineup card, they want to know that, we have a chance tonight. Instead of, I wonder, who's going to show up tonight. You don't want that out of pitching. Hitting, you can kind of cover that up because you already know they're going to fail 70% of the time anyway. So to go out there and expect, just like Coach said, you can't go out there and expect, if that girl's throwing 101 on a scale, You can't go expect that every hitter, they're already failing 7 out of 10 times. Now you put them under those conditions, they're going to fail even more. So you can't expect always your hitting to be the same, but our bunting's got to be good because that's controllable. We could have handled some of the bunts in the McNeese game. We could have handled the squeeze better in the McNeese game, and then we bunted better at Alabama, so that's good. Those are the things you can control because that's what allowed us to beat Alabama last Friday night here 2-0 was the ability to bunt. Those are the things we got to get good at, playing defense and being able to bunt the baseball, move the ball around, and then keep growing from the bottom up in our lineup.